Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder. And our program today is on really one of the most interesting things we humans do. It's on creative and artistic self-expression.
Everybody's got a little bit of art in them. Not everybody sings their song or writes their poetry or paints their picture. A lot of people, unfortunately, are traumatized, as I was. In junior high school, a teacher leaned over and said, "Boy, Michael, I sure am glad you're good at math and science because you'll never be an artist." Man, it just crushed me, and I was well into my 40s before I actually hired a guy to teach me how to draw. And then as soon as I started getting good at it, I decided, well, that's enough. I just wanted to know I could do it if I really wanted, and that was all I needed. I have music. I really enjoy playing my guitar, and so everybody's got to have something, and you might want to consider that if you've labeled yourself as somebody who's not an artist. Well, in what area are you not an artist? Because that leaves a whole bunch of other areas open to express and learn something about yourself. I think that's our point today. If you want to paint a nice painting or do a sculpture or sing a song and do it for other people, well, that's great. But we'd like you to consider that it's a healthy form of self-expression to find the artistic side of you, whatever area of art it may be, and then express who you are and take a step back and look at what you did to better discover who you are.
So how do you discover your particular artistic bent, your creative talents, gifts, and abilities? How do you know, should I pick up a paintbrush, or should I start writing something, or should I get a piece of clay and start working with that? Or maybe I should take paper clips and other household items and go, how do I know? There's a lot of cool answers to that question, and three of them come to mind. One way that you could know what you would be really, really good at is, what did you love to do when you were really little? Were you one of the kids that loved to draw stuff with crayons, or did you like to build things with erector sets? I'm dating myself there. Legos, I guess, would be more the modern use.
Lincoln Logs.
That's going back. So think back to early childhood, and what did you like to play with? That's one way of taking a look at where your artistic talent could be. Another way is just sort of the scientific method, trial and error. Just pick up something, try it. If it comes easy, if it comes natural, if it flows, if it feels like this is fun to do, then do some more of it. If it doesn't feel like this is fun to do, then put it down and attempt something else. But my favorite way, almost always my favorite way of determining like what I could be good at, what I could be really talented at, is to take myself down into paradise, into that alpha brainwave state, into that peaceful place, and ask myself, what could I be great at? Ask my intuition, not try and figure it out, not try and look at the menu and eliminate it's not, but rather just open my heart, open my mind to channeling through my higher self what it might be. Just let my intuition sort of like put all the pieces, the millions and millions of pieces of information it has about me and my life and my experiences and my genetics and my environment and all that, put it all together and just come up with something. And for Michael, it's always been music since he was a little boy, and for me, it's always been rhyming. It's always been poems. I've been writing poems for over 50 years. Find your thing. If you're fortunate enough to find it in childhood, you can get really, really good at it by the time you get old. But find it if you haven't found it yet. Find it through trial and error. Find it through going to paradise and asking. Find it through remembering what you used to do in childhood. But find it, because once you do find it, what it does is it sort of puts it all together. It propels you back into that childlike state. It takes you into that focused passion alpha state. It takes you out of stress and into the zone where you get to let your juices flow.
I can understand how virtually anybody in any situation could end up believing that they don't have any art or music or performance ability in them, or that if they do, it's not really very important. What's the first thing that gets eliminated in an education budget when money is tight? First thing they get rid of is the art and the music. Second thing they get rid of is sports. The last thing they're ever going to get rid of are the skills that are most likely to be marketable in a capitalistic society. Math and science and technology and that kind of stuff. Well, I think all of this is important. And if you look at students that are acting out, that are being delinquent or dysfunctional, or they're just very angry or hurt, and then contrast those students against the ones that are very well adjusted and well integrated in their lives, I think you'll find that the students that are having the toughest time are the ones that are not taking advantage of sports and art. They don't have that opportunity to express themselves, so they go out and get into trouble. I mean, can you imagine a young boy, for example, practicing his violin or his clarinet or painting or drawing and then going out and getting in a gang fight? It just doesn't make sense to me. The kid that's more likely to act out and be violent and angry is really looking for some way to express himself. And if he doesn't have art, if he doesn't have music or other forms of art, and then if he doesn't have sports, because that's been stripped away from the school budget, you're just asking for trouble down the road. And I think the amount of money that society then ends up spending is going to be much greater. I think it may be penny wise and pound foolish in the long run. We really need to, in my opinion anyway, emphasize the importance of having not only sports, but we're talking about artistic self-expression today, the music and the art classes and the drama classes and the photography classes in our schools. I think they're just as important as the science and the math.
Oh, indeed. In fact, music and higher math and foreign language are really affecting the same parts of the brain. They're all foreign languages. Higher mathematics, music, and foreign language are all foreign languages and exercising a part of the brain. So there's been a lot of studies that prove that people who learn music or who learn foreign language do much better in math. We are really choking our school system by getting rid of arts and music first. Artistic self-expression allows greatness to come through, and greatness in any endeavor spills over into every endeavor. So those kids who do have a special talent for drama or for music or for art and didn't get a chance in school to express that, then they didn't get a chance to become the best they could be. They didn't get a chance to taste the greatness that would have allowed them to have more greatness in English and science and all the others. I mean, those kids that do find their talent early in their lives have such a tremendous advantage. I'm really excited about telling the story about my nephew, who, when he was like a little boy, he just loved acting. We saw him do the Hamlet soliloquy when he was like 4 years old. To be or not to be, that is the question. He just loved getting in front of him. He was always like, taking his Superman costume or something and pretending he was Superman. He was always acting in front of us, when he was a little kid, and he just loved acting. And so, his parents encouraged that, and he did some commercials, and he got some work when he was a kid doing acting, actually getting paid. And then he changed school districts so he could go to a school that had a great drama department, and eventually he ended up getting a job in the industry, and he's worked for several years now, 6 years in the soap opera business, in the daytime television. I'm so proud of him. He followed his heart, he followed his dream, and just a couple of days ago, it was so exciting. He was nominated actually for the 5th time for an Emmy Award for the Best Young Actor in Daytime Television, and this time he won. So what an incredible dream come true, and now he can shoot for the Best Actor, period, much less. So when you can find your vision, when you can find your dream early in your life, that's wonderful. But if you haven't, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. I mean, Grandma Moses learned to paint when she was in her 80s. So it's never too late to discover hidden gifts, talents, and abilities that lie there within you.
There are other forms of expression besides art. You can express your good ideas. You can express your logic. You could be a little more creative in that sense, perhaps, logically creative. You could express your emotional nature. All of these things are important. We're talking about artistic self-expression, but consider the saying that many counselors know and use on a regular basis, which is that which is not expressed ends up being repressed, and that's not healthy. So, to be the best we can be, just the happiest and the most content and the most fulfilled, we need to express what's in us. What's that saying about dying with your song unsung? Well, that has to do with singing, literally, but also a lot of other areas. Maybe your song is woodworking, and you just never got around to it because you thought it wasn't important, or it wouldn't be commercially viable, or what would other people think? Well, the heck with all of that. What about the way it feels to pursue something that you love to do, or just think maybe I'd really love to do? I mean, I've always liked working with wood, and I put that away. I never really went to it. I have this other interest in music and guitars particularly, and was just watching 60 Minutes recently, and I saw this feature on a fellow that makes guitars in his workshop, and that's all he does all day. He loves making guitars. Some of his guitars sell for $40,000 and more. Wow, whoever would have thought? That would have been really nice for me to, I suppose I still could. Now in my life, it's so full, it's a matter of priorities. So I think my point here is that as long as you have something in you, whatever is the nature of that song, make sure you sing it. Whatever you feel like doing, if you aren't sure what kind of art would allow you to express what's inside you. Again, there's such a thing as performance art. There's art like the Tibetan monks do with the sand painting that immediately they destroy to remind them of the impermanence of all things. There are some people that do art just to affect people politically and socially. Some people really want to have an impact on the world. But what about just expressing what's inside you and then taking a step back and looking at what you've created, what you've manifested in the world by drawing or painting or sculpting or writing? Could be prose, could be poetry like Steve, or music or photography. There's just so many different areas that are available to you to express yourself. And I suppose even if you just chose one at random or trial and error, you're going to stumble on something. But we're going to talk later in the program about a way to use paradise, as we call it, these narrow awake levels of mind to come in touch with that song, in quotes, that's inside you that wants to be sung.
And the value of doing that, because when you sing your song, that's the metaphor, of course, when you are artistically expressing yourself, a whole bunch of things happen. One is, what you've done is you've taken your thoughts and your feelings and you've put them together in a unique way to express them. Nobody has the same feelings you have. Some people think the same things you think, but nobody has the same feelings you have about those thoughts. So you're really unique in that way. So it's a process of creating an understanding within yourself of what you think and what you feel when you can put it together and create something. Part two is the process of actually doing it. The zone you're in when you are expressing it, when you're doing the writing, when you're doing the drawing, when you're doing the dancing or whatever the performance art happens to be. When you're doing it, you're in the zone. You're in the alpha state. You're in this focused passion place, which is an incredibly healthy and wonderful place to be. And third is that the afterglow of having done that, the self-esteem rises, the confidence level rises, greatness at any endeavor spills over into every endeavor. All of a sudden you feel better at things. So what happens inside your mind in the creative process that's healthy for you, there's the process of expressing it, which is healthy for you, and then there's the afterglow of having expressed it and having felt like an expressive person and having worked through some of your thoughts, some of your feelings, gained some more understanding about who you are and have something to show for it, whether it's a memory or something physical in the universe, something to show for it, then that's what it's all about. It's good before it, it's good during it, and it's really good after it as well.
I came across a quotation recently by Carl Sagan where he was talking about how wonderful it feels to be intelligent. He wrote it in such a way that he avoided sounding immodest, actually, but he was just saying how The ability to focus your mind and concentrate on an intelligent activity is really pleasurable. It really feels good. I think, he even used the word ecstatic. It led me to think about that for a little while. Is it the intelligence that is self-satisfying and makes you feel so good? Or is it more that anytime we focus our mind on anything and really get into it, it's going to have some contentment, some satisfaction that goes along with it? I think both things are true. It is satisfying to be intelligent. And have you ever noticed how artists, by and large, tend to be really smart people, whatever is the nature of their art? I think it has a lot to do with the focus. Our website is called Focused Passion. Now, where are you more likely to see focused passion but in meditation, number one, and artistic self-expression? These people are really into it. That's why they're good at their particular art form. Consider that, we don't talk nearly enough about satisfaction and contentment because I think it's so elusive in most people's minds. They know money doesn't work, seems to, but doesn't really in and of itself. There's something very exciting and stimulating about buying. Some people get addicted just to shopping and leave the stuff in the car. They take it home and they never even take it out of the trunk of the car. The rush was just buying the stuff. Or people who have closets full of clothes with the tags still on them. They really never had any intention of wearing the clothes. The rush was the buying. What is it that really provides satisfaction, if not money and stuff, or the act of buying stuff? Well, there is service, of course, doing things for other people, but within that, is there not something even more satisfying about being of service in an artistic way, in a way, in other words, that expresses the essence of who you are, something that you really love to do? Now, I know you're busy, and there's a lot of folks that are busy looking for ways to even be more busy. Maybe you're out of work, don't have a job, trying to find a job. That can be very challenging. But it's real important to carve out little pieces of your day, or your week, certainly, that you dedicate to expressing yourself artistically, because you're going to benefit in a variety of ways. Again, as we said at the very top of the show, it's fulfilling and it feels good to express yourself artistically, but you're also going to discover something really wonderful about yourself, maybe a whole bunch of things about yourself that you just might not have discovered if you didn't pursue this art, if you didn't set aside a little piece of every day, or maybe a part of one day each week, when you can pursue these artistic interests and do it just for you, just because you're going to learn so much more about yourself. And I thought Steve said it very well. It'll spill over into all of these other areas. Your skills, yeah, but also the feeling of being skilled, of developing yourself, of discovering who you are, and then developing what you discover. It's such a wonderful feeling. You can then apply it in other areas of your life.
Yeah, actually, the traditional old definition of art was mastery at most anything. He's artful, means he's very good, or she's very good, or excellent, or world class, or something. So what we're talking about is expressing yourself. Now, most people, when they think of art, or the first thing that pops in is probably painting, drawing paintings, and they think, well, I can't do that. Well, you're right. You probably can't do that. Not like somebody who get paid for it could. It's not a talent that anybody usually finds it later in life. It's something usually most people develop early. Grandma Moses found it late in life, but most people find these kind of talents early. But it really doesn't matter if you actually sell anything. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about is like exercising a muscle, exercising the creativity muscle, exercising the problem-solving muscle, exercise the puzzle-solving muscle is what we're doing, because that's what artistic self-expression is. It's finding a way, a unique way, a one-of-a-kind, you do it your way and only your way kind of way of expressing yourself in a unique way. It's a puzzle. Like, how do I take this crayon? How do I take this pencil? How do I take this piece of clay? How do I take this piece of music and dance to it in such a way that I'm saying who I am? I'm expressing who I am. And in doing that, we clarify a greater understanding of who we are. We exercise our mind. We become better problem solvers, better decision makers, better creative thinkers, and we become better at expressing that creativity. And therefore, we gain access to whole new worlds in our ability to communicate with other people. By the time we become so adept at something that we actually call it our art, we've probably made contacts and connections with lots of other people who have that same passion, that same interest, and all of a sudden we have new friendships that are springing up. All of a sudden we have new things that we discover that we never knew about before. All of a sudden our mind is being expanded. It's being exercised. Creative self-expression, artistic self-expression, it doesn't matter if it's good. It matters if you do it or don't do it, because if you don't do it, you lose all these benefits. If you do it, again, whatever you come up with, if you do it, you exercise your mind.
Consider how important art has been to our human ancestors. I mean, what are the artifacts that archaeologists dig up? All right, there's going to be some tools there. And when I say tools, I mean not only objects that are used to make other objects, but utilitarian items like a bowl or a jug. These are the things that have lasted over the centuries, the thousands of years that human beings have made their mark on the earth.
I think the oldest discovered piece of art, quote unquote, was a clamshell with specific holes in it to act as like a drainer kind of thing. And it was 75,000 years ago.
Wow.
But we still have petroglyphs and those kinds of things that are like 15, 20, 30,000 years.
Well, that's where I was headed. And my point was, not only do we have art as well as tools, but the tools are usually decorated with art. I mean, even the ancient Egyptian tombs, if you go inside, which nobody was ever intended to do, they're beautifully painted, right? Not for the grave robbers, not for the archaeologists who would come thousands of years later, but for the soul, for the spirits, for the afterlife. There it is. There's the artwork. The idea that it's so important that it transcends even mortality. Art has always been a part of who we are. A guy sitting in a cave tens of thousands of years ago, what's he doing? He picks up a piece of charcoal, starts to draw on the wall, and then maybe crushes some berries and adds a little bit of color, or finds a clay that's a different color and uses that. And again, then what are they drawing? You see, well, often they're drawing pictures of animals or what seems to be a successful hunt. Well, are they recording their history? Is this Dear Diary? Well, actually, what I think is especially interesting about cave paintings is it seems that it wasn't so much about what they had already done as it was a kind of sympathetic magic about what they were intending to do. Ancient people often used art as a way of manifesting their life. Imagine, they understood that concept back then, that if you can imagine something, it's easier to do than if you cannot imagine it and are left only with willpower. Human beings knew that tens of thousands of years ago? Yeah, turns out they actually did.
Yeah, and we know it today, and each and every one of us who's had an experience with some kind of an artistic expression has felt it. We don't have to be great at it, we just have to do it, because it makes a difference in how we feel. When we find our song to sing, when we find our instrument to play, when we find our clay to manipulate, whatever it happens to be, when we find what works for us to be creative, then we do something wonderful for ourselves. What we do is we let our brain know that survival's not an issue right now. Like, now we're into growth. Now we're into success and fulfillment. And now we're into expressing the joys and the wonders of the world. Now we're into problem-solving decisions. We're not worried about stuff when we're expressing ourselves creatively. We're not thinking about what could go wrong in the future. We're living in the moment. We're living in the now, and we're living in a very unique way of being. I know for me, it's always been the poetry thing, the rhyming thing. I started when I was 5 years old. My first poem was, I saw a postman coming down the trail. You know what he was carrying? He was carrying lots of mail. I mean, I started doing it. And I just have found a way of rhyming things over and over again. And, you know, to me, Twitter and Facebook have really created a whole new artistic palette for me to express my poetry, and for lots of other people to express themselves by showing the video they made or the video they liked or the poem or the quote they loved. Even sharing someone else's quote is an artistic expression, because it's talking about what you think is interesting, what you find important, what your focused passion gets titillated by. So finding that which intrigues you, finding that which stimulates your sentences, what looks especially good to you, what sounds good, what smells good. Sing your song, find your way of expressing yourself, because when you do, your brain says, this is a higher function. We're not in the ego place now of worried about, you know, danger. We're in this place of, we don't have to worry about food, we don't have to worry about shelter, we don't have to worry about any of that stuff right now. We're above all that. We got meat in the cave, so we can really express ourselves and draw celebratory things today. We don't have to just draw what we hope is going to happen. We can draw what actually has happened. But as Michael said, there's a lot of sympathetic magic in creating what you want to manifest in the world. I think of artists who draw or write songs about the future they want to see, you know, who predict and project and create the future they want. John Lennon's Imagine was an artistic expression of a world he would like to see, you know. So artistic expression is a way of understanding yourself in a unique way, and also showing other people a unique way of seeing you.
This might seem a little strange, but hang with me for a minute here. I'm going to evoke an image of people in heaven, and what are they doing? Nobody talks about this. You know, people talk about death in terms of, well, rest in peace, or the billboards about the exercise centers, I'll rest when I die, that kind of thing. No, I'm serious. If you're going to a place for all of eternity and you're looking forward to going to this place of all eternity, this place where you're going to be loved and happy and fulfilled, what are you going to do there? I'm serious. What are you going to do? You don't have to work. You don't have to be productive, right? You've already earned your stripes. What are you going to do in heaven? I suspect you're going to spend that time expressing yourself.
I think a lot of redecorating. You know.
Well, you don't have to worry about making your own clothes or doing the laundry. You have no appetites. You don't have to buy food, no dishes to do. I think that's why we often see paintings of heaven as a place where angels are playing harps and people are singing and dancing. I think music and art, song and dance is a great part of it. The celestial choir and the whole idea of cherubs with the harps and the music. And to me, whatever it's going to be, I'm sure there are novels that are going to be written if consciousness does indeed live forever.
I would think Babe Ruth's playing baseball out there somewhere. You know, it seems to me whatever you most love would be what heaven would be. And what do you most love? It's not your 9-to-5 job. It's your creative expression. It's what makes you special. What is the unique way of expressing who you are?
I guess one of the points I want to make here is it occurs to me that art is less something you do than it is who you are. How about if you look at it that way? Art is an opportunity to express a truth of who I am that I haven't yet expressed. And I'm going deeper. I'm digging deeper. I'm discovering more. Like I found the loose thread and I'm going to pull on it and see what unravels, what comes out. And who knows where that's going to lead. Seems to me to fail to do that in your life is to fail to really be fully alive. And so you may want to just consider the way in which the concept has been presented to you. I remember very clearly thinking that creativity was something that only artistic people did, for example, and that if I didn't paint or draw, then I wasn't creative and couldn't be creative, especially since my interest was science and math and technology. I like that stuff, but nobody ever told me you could be creative in science or creative even in math or geometry or trig or calculus. To be creative and scientific, to me, was sort of a confusing, mixed-up concept. Didn't make much sense until I got older and loosened my definition, really, of creativity. I think we need to do that with the word art or artistic or artful. I mean, look at some of the related words. There's artificial, there's artifact that are related to the word art, art being the root word. These other words have come out of it. Or maybe it was the other way around, but artificial suggests that art is not authentic. You can see that that's not the accurate intention of the word.
No, it's the real article, actually.
There you go. So whether you think of art and artificial, art being some sort of object that's not real but a model or a representation, certainly that's some kind of art. But we're talking about, again, self-expression and just what an essential part of being alive and living a wonderful, fulfilled, loving life artistic expression really is. So if you've suffered, as I have, from these limited definitions of you're not a creative person, or, my God, I hope no art teacher ever told you, as she did me, you'll never be an artist. Well,
I bet a lot of kids heard that. Or else they compared themselves like I did to their sibling, and they weren't nearly as good as their sibling, so they decided they're not very good at it. I think most children at some point early on decide they're not artists. They're not good at art.
Well, especially if you're told always not to paint outside the line,
Exactly.
that your perspective on art is wrong somehow.
No purple trees allowed.
Yeah. Tell the story about, you have a wonderful story about Picasso I'd like you to share.
Oh, yeah, it was fascinating. I read this not too long ago where Picasso's sitting somewhere, I think in a train station or something, and somebody comes up and sits next to him and says, acknowledges he's the great Picasso. He says, you're such a great artist, Mr. Picasso, but why don't you paint things that look real? And Picasso said, what do you mean real? And so the guy reaches into his wallet, and he opens his wallet, and he pulls out a photograph of his wife, and he shows Picasso the photograph of his wife. He points to there, that looks real. And Picasso said, that's your wife? And the guy says, yeah. And he goes, she's so flat and small. I mean, it's all perspective. That doesn't look anything like his wife. She's like 5 foot tall. So it's your unique way of looking at things, your unique way of expressing things. That's what art really is. And the magic of art is that it is inside of all of us. We all have a unique expression. Nobody can do art the way we can. And it doesn't matter whether other people like it or not. It's your song to sing, and it makes you feel better about you. And it puts you into a great state and your mind into a great place of knowing not only is survival not an issue, even competency is not an issue. I've got it handled. I can go for excellence. I can go for greatness. I can express myself in a really wonderful and unique way.
It's also personal. I remember my wife and I going to a Van Gogh exhibit in Los Angeles, and here's a guy whose painting is so powerful, so rich, so deep, such incredible vivid colors and textures. And I know nothing really about art except I have a sense of what I like. My wife certainly knows what she likes. So we went to the Van Gogh exhibit a few years back. We both loved it, but her favorite was this painting, and my favorite was not that, but this one over here. And, we disagreed. Not that it became any kind of problem, because, again, we were both happy to have gone and to have experienced the show with each other. But what did you like about it? What did you like about it? I think that's part of the fun of discovering art and going to museums and reading magazines with nice pictures of art.
Because anybody can say, I don't know art, but I know what I like.
There you go.
I know what I like.
Do you know what you like? I'm not sure everybody does know what they like. Or maybe they're afraid to commit themselves and say, I definitely like this. Movies is an art form as well. Film, we haven't talked a whole lot about film and photography. Song and dance, if you just like to move, the way it feels to move. The freedom that's provided by the way movement awakens or makes you even more aware of what it's like to be in this body. People love to dance, and maybe you do too, but have you ever considered why some people really love to dance and other people are terrified to get out there? Maybe they're too concerned about what other people think. There's so many opportunities to discover more about who you are and then express what you discover through art that, again, don't think of it as just a product or a result that you end up displaying, hanging on the wall, giving away, or hoping you make some sort of statement. It's not the object, it's the process. As we often say, not the destination, it's the journey. It's not what you make so much, it's that you're using art as a way of discovering and expressing your uniqueness.
Yeah, you don't do art to become an artist. You become an artist and then you do art. You don't have to earn your way into being an artist. You get to just start as one. And just considering yourself an artist, I mean, that's a big shift of consciousness for a lot of people. Like we were talking about, most children learn they're not artistic. They're told they're not creative. They're told they're not good at this kind of stuff, and it just shuts things down. I mean, literally all those neurons that used to be firing in those directions stop firing in those directions, and that whole thing atrophies. And yet, although it's very, very challenging to become as good as you could have been if you started when you were a kid, you can still become better than you are now. You can get better and better. And really, art is part of who we are, and an artist is part of who we are. And we are right now artists in the process of discovering and developing our art. Every one of us is an artist in discovering and developing our art. So one of the great ways of doing that is to remember childhood experiences. One of the great ways to do it is to just, try things out and see what feels great. And another great way to do it is to go to paradise and explore. So I think it's time to do that. It's time to go to paradise and explore.
So get comfortable. Close your eyes. Create a sense of balance. Move around a little bit so you really feel balanced, shoulders back. The idea is to sit up straight without using any muscular tension to do it. You're just stacked, head on shoulders, shoulders back. The spine is aligned, but you're not a rigid 2x4 here. You're just this pile of bones, really relaxed. Create and sense that feeling, and then breathe into it. Yeah? Big inhalation. Hold as you peak. And now as you exhale just as slowly, feel the letting go. Create and sense a feeling of relaxation.
And as you imagine yourself in this place of perfect peace that causes your body to relax and your emotions to release any anxiety or fear, and your conscious mind gets clear, this peaceful place does appear. Well, this is art right here. You drew that. You created that. You manifested that in your mind. You were the artist. And what you did was you looked inside to find what you wanted to put in that place of perfect peace, and what came through, you allowed to release and make appear. So this peaceful place, full of love, free of fear, you did that. You're the artist. You made it appear. And just as you can create here, you can create there, anywhere. You are an artist. Say that to yourself. I am an artist. Just make it feel true. I'm an artist. Say it about you. I am an artist. And what I do is art. Whether it's something I've done a long time or something I'm about to start, it's just expressing who I am. It's art. And I'm an artist. Say that as if it's true. I am an artist. Say it to you. I am an artist. And feel it in your bones. I am an artist. And feel that feeling grow. I am an artist. And now, let's let the art flow.
Consider that for each of your senses, there are arts that help you enjoy those senses. If you're really visual and you love vision and caressing objects with your eyes, shape, form, color, texture, light and shadow, consider drawing and painting. If you're auditory, you like to listen to sounds. The birds singing, you may have a song literally to sing. And maybe you combine it with writing lyrics and poetry. Or maybe it's melody that interests you, or harmony, or rhythm. There are many qualities of music that a person who loves to listen can enjoy creating. And for the tactile people, there's everything from taking a pencil or a paintbrush into your hand to sculpting in clay or some other medium, to movement such as dance. Some would argue that climbing a mountain or a vertical rock face is an art form, really a dance as they move up the mountain. You see, it's not what you do so much as the way you approach it, as if this is a means of unfolding more about you than you've learned so far. To learn more about who you are and to express it. And if an object results, you ended up writing a song or inventing a new dance or sculpting or painting or drawing or photography, taking pictures or videos, whatever it happens to be, that's just all the better. You didn't really do it to create something to show to other people. I mean, that may be a very important part of it, but maybe the biggest part of all is the self-discovery and the self-development, the unfoldment. Feel yourself like a flower that blossoms, opening and unfolding through your artistic interests.
And feel greater, grander, finer for the experience of having let art into your heart so that you can express who you are in a way that makes you realize you're a star. Find your expression, whatever it may be. Find your art, whether you hear or feel or see. Find your way to express who you are, that being of stardust, of light from a star. You have the power to blossom and flower, and art can help make that come true. You have the power to become an even greater expression of you. So sing your song, paint your painting, write whatever you can. Find a way to artistically express yourself. Make that part of your plan. Because making time to creatively express yourself makes you greater than you are. It brings out the best inside of you, the part that is the star.
And imagine bringing with you effortlessly back into the room, to the wide awake state, the feeling of expressing yourself creatively and artistically, as if your favorite novel is one you wrote, or a beautiful painting that you really admire is something you produced, or you finally sang your song and it went to #1 with a bullet. Whatever the nature of the art, bring with you the feeling that it's already in you. It's been expressing itself in drips and drabs throughout your life, but now you're going to organize your life and schedule time, create a real priority out of unfolding the essence of who you are by making something, creating something, not just anything, but a thing that is a reflection of you, a manifestation of what you care about and really love, that you can put out into the world and always enjoy the wonderful feeling of knowing that's my creation. It is good.
And with that feeling of creativity and that feeling of accomplishment and that feeling that it is good, reorient yourself back to the room that you're in. Prepare yourself to come back. Take a deep breath, fill your lungs, hold at the peak, and as you release, open your eyes and come back to wide awake from that focused passion state of narrow awake back to the state now of wide awake.
Yeah, I'm still sort of working on this idea of what would you do in heaven, and this idea that it also occurs to me now, especially that we did that little meditation, that maybe a way to bring heaven to earth, right, and be in heaven before we die and lose this physical body is to, as we've suggested here, discover and develop our artistic senses, to do what you love to do and do it in an artistic way where the result is not nearly as important as the whole process of self-expression. It's just so satisfying. I think that does bring heaven to earth.
It really is quite remarkable. And on a very pragmatic level, it sharpens your intelligence. I mean, I remember I had two experiences in my life working with clay. One was when I was 9, and that was when I was 59. And the first time it was take a piece of clay and make an ashtray. So take everything that doesn't look like an ashtray out of that chunk and leave what's left looking like an ashtray. The second time was just a few months back at our retreat with Ginger Gilmore doing an exercise where we took tiny little pieces of clay and just put them together, making something we didn't really know what it was going to be, kind of thing. Well, one's deductive logic, the other's inductive logic, and looking at the experiences of how my mind worked in doing those two things, I learned more about the way I think. So art for art's sake, art for intelligence's sake, art for lots of good reasons, lots of great reasons. But the bottom line is you have it in you, you have a song to sing, and that song needs to be sung.
Thanks for being with us. Join us next week as our series continues to unfold, maybe even a little artistically, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Log in to FocusedPassion.com and use the gadget under the built-in player to forward any one of the programs from your archive to your friends, especially people that you think are going to benefit from this topic or that topic. Okay, they'll appreciate it and you'll feel good about it, and we like the whole idea of putting these programs out there for more and more people to know, hey, then again, it's not so much what you do in the world as who you are that really matters. As always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha from Maui.